Hat, sunglasses, Pepsi, notes, sources, thick skin. Check. You already know. Let's go. Golden Blooded is a college football YouTube channel for entertainment. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and let's get into our next college football video. Don't forget to send gear to represent your team. The address is P.O. Box 360, Liberty, South Carolina 29657. I think there's going to be some big time changes in the Big 12. Well, not only UCF, Cincinnati, Houston, and BYU coming in, and the schedule not being around robin, I'm talking about the actual standings. I think there's going to be a lot of shuffling around whenever it comes to the actual standings. And some of these jumpers and fallers might actually surprise you in the Big 12. Let's take a look at the final rankings for the 2022 Big 12 season. Not counting the Big 12 championship because that determined the actual championship. This was just the standings after the season. Number 1 was TCU. They were 9-0 in the regular season. In the Big 12, undefeated. 13-2 is what they finished overall. Number 2 was Kansas State. They were 7-2 in the Big 12. They finished 10-4 overall. Number 3 was Texas. They were 6-3 in the Big 12. They finished 8-5 overall. Number 4, Texas Tech. They were 5-4 in the Big 12. They finished 8-5 overall. Number 5, Oklahoma State. 4-5 in the Big 12. They finished 7-6 overall. Number 6 was Baylor. They also were 4-5, 6-7 overall is what they finished. Number 7, Oklahoma had a big letdown year this year. 3-6 in the Big 12, 6-7 overall. Number 8 was Kansas. 3-6 in the Big 12, 6-7 overall. Number 9, West Virginia. They managed 3-6 somehow in the Big 12, but finished 5-7 overall. And then dead last, number 10, Iowa State. 1-8 in the Big 12. Their only win, of course, was against West Virginia at home. 4-8 overall is what they finished. Looking at the 4 teams coming in, BYU went 8-5. They weren't in a conference. They were independent. Cincinnati went 6-2 in the AAC, finished 9-4 overall. UCF also finished 6-2 in the AAC. They finished 9-5 overall. And then Houston finished 5-3 in the AAC, 8-5 overall. How do I see the Big 12 shaking out in 2023? I think there's some big time moving that's going to go on in the Big 12. Let's look at offensive, defensive, and strength of schedule rankings for all of these teams. For Texas, they were 25th in points per game, 28th in allowed points per game, number 1 in toughest schedule. Texas Tech was 27th in points per game, 93rd in points allowed per game, and the 8th toughest schedule. Baylor was 39th in points per game and 69th in allowed points per game, and 22nd toughest schedule. Oklahoma was 33rd in points per game, 99th in points allowed per game, and 10th toughest schedule overall. Kansas State was 37th in points per game, 29th in allowed points per game, and they had the 2nd toughest schedule in the entire nation. BYU, they were 44th in points per game, 96th in points allowed per game, and just the 69th toughest schedule in the nation. That's going to play a factor. West Virginia was 51st in points per game, 116th in points allowed per game. Pitiful on defense. But we had the 13th toughest schedule in the nation. Cincinnati, 59th in points per game, 20th in points allowed per game, and just the 74th toughest schedule in the nation. That's going to hurt them going into the Big 12. UCF was 31st in points per game, 46th in points allowed per game, and they just had the 64th toughest schedule. Once again, going to affect them going into the Big 12 negatively. Kansas was 21st in points per game, 124th in points allowed per game, but they had the 7th toughest schedule in the nation. Iowa State, 114th in points per game. A terrible, terrible offense. But 18th in allowed points per game, and they had the 9th toughest schedule in the nation. Houston, a new team coming in, 17th in points per game, but 112th in points allowed per game, and just the 63rd toughest schedule in the nation. And yes, that's going to hurt them coming into the Big 12, at least initially. TCU was 9th in points per game, but 91st in points allowed per game. They did not have a good defense. And they had the 4th toughest schedule in the nation. And finally, Oklahoma State, 49th in points per game, 89th in points allowed per game. And out of all the Big 12 teams, they did have the easiest schedule, the 29th toughest schedule in the nation. The Big 12 had the toughest schedules as far as across the board out of any conference in the nation. So how do I expect the Big 12 to finish and where everybody's going to move? Well, in first place, who do I think will win the Big 12? I think Texas moves from 3rd place to 1st place as long as Quinn Ewers stays healthy. If he stays healthy, Texas has a chance to go undefeated. I think they're going to have a great defense, and I think they're going to score a lot of points. I have Texas making the Big 12 championship. The number 2 team, the team that Texas will play in the Big 12 championship, this is a jumper, but they jumped the same amount of spots as Texas, so people shouldn't be surprised, but they will be, and that's the Texas Tech Red Raiders. I think they jumped from the 4th spot to the 2nd spot. I think Joey McGuire is recruiting at an elite level for Texas Tech, and they made significant strides in 2022. So I have an apology to give to Texas Tech because I bashed them for firing their former head coach because I thought they were turning a corner, and for hiring Joey McGuire, I didn't think it was a good hire. It looks like it's going to be a good hire. I have Texas Tech Red Raiders making the Big 12 championship in 2023. The 3 spot, who's going to make the jump? Well, I think Baylor jumps from the 6th spot to the number 3 spot. I think Baylor was a victim of circumstances last year. You saw them in a lot of close games and lose those close games. I think Baylor will flip a lot of those games, maybe not all of them, but a lot of those, and I think they'll finish 3rd in the Big 12 in 2023. Number 4, here's a jumper for you. I think Oklahoma jumps from the 7th spot to the 4th spot. I don't think they're ready to be elite yet, but I do think they'll be much, much improved than what they were in 2022. I think Oklahoma can finish 8-4 or 9-3, something like that, which will be good enough to grab that 4th spot in the Big 12. Number 5, this is a faller. I have Kansas State falling from number 2 to number 5. They will miss a few of the losses that they will occur from 2022 season, but they're going to be good. They still might be a sneaky good team, but I don't think they're going to be quite as good as what they were last year. And last year, I predicted Kansas State to make the Big 12 championship and a dark horse to actually win the Big 12 championship, and that's exactly what happened. So no, I have no hate for Kansas State. I just think they'll fall a few spots. Coming in at number 6. This is where it gets a little tricky for me. And this is another jumper. And keep in mind, we're going from 10 teams to 14 teams. So if you jump, it's even better with the 14-team league. But I have Kansas. Yes, that's right. I have Kansas jumping from the 8th spot to the 6th spot. I think they'll be even better than what they were last year, especially on defense. And I think Kansas could be a solid 7-5 or 8-4 team. So I have Kansas jumping up to the 6th spot. Coming in at number 7, I know everybody will disagree with me on this one, but I have West Virginia jumping from the 9th spot to the 7th spot. I think West Virginia is transitioning over to the spread offense with Graham Harrell going to Purdue and JT Daniels transferring out, and West Virginia promoting running backs coach Chad Scott up to the offensive coordinator position. Yes, West Virginia is going to be a spread offense team, and I think it will benefit them. Now, I don't think they're going to be a great team, but I think they could be a 6-6, maybe if some things bounce our way, a 7-5 team. Yes, I do have West Virginia making a slight jump in 2023. And no, it won't be good enough for me to say Neil Brown is the man for the job. Coming in at number 8, a new member, Cincinnati. Yes, I do think Cincinnati will struggle just a little bit, but they'll barely finish in the upper half of the Big 12 because I think they're built the best out of any of the teams coming in as far as handling the new Big 12. Now, Luke Fickell going on to Wisconsin, that's going to hurt Cincinnati, but I think they have the personnel right now to be a bowl team in the new Big 12. So you're looking at a 6-6 or 7-5. Coming in at number 9, UCF. And I know that could go back and forth because at least UCF has Gus Malzahn, and he has coached in the Power 5 conference and had a lot of success over there at Auburn. So this could be an either or. I think UCF is in the same boat. They're built almost the same as Cincinnati, so this could flip-flop. And I do think UCF could be a 6-6 or 7-5 team. So maybe whoever wins between Cincinnati and UCF, because I do think they will play each other, will have that 8 spot. Coming in at number 10, BYU. I think BYU's strength of schedule is really going to hurt them. And no offense, BYU fans, you did have a good team, but I do think you take a slight step back and you're going to be right on the bubble as far as making a bowl or missing a bowl. But I think BYU will build something in the Big 12 and will have success in the future. But right off the bat, you might struggle just a little bit. Coming in at number 11, Iowa State. I think once again, Iowa State's not going to be a very good team. They might sniff a bowl, I don't know. But we saw losing Brock Purdy and Breece Hall hurt them tremendously, and I don't think they're going to be recovered quite yet. Not quite yet. Maybe give it one more year before you get back to what you were doing with Brock Purdy and Breece Hall. And we see what Brock Purdy is doing in the NFL. That's how good he was. I think Iowa State barely misses a bowl this year. So instead of a 4-8 team, you're looking at a 5-7. That's a little bit of improvement. Coming in at number 12, Houston. You knew I was going to do it. I think strength of schedule is going to hurt them, and not having a defense is also going to hurt them. I think Houston could be looking at a 5-7 team. And Dana Holgorsen, he's just not a very good head coach, especially in the Big 12. So yes, Houston will struggle at first in the Big 12, and I think they will barely miss a bowl. Coming in at number 13, TCU fans are freaking out right now. You haven't heard your name yet? Well, here it is, number 13. That's right. I think TCU takes a tremendous fall in the Big 12. You look at last last year, and they didn't have a very good defense. I don't think they're going to have a good defense this year, and they're losing a crap ton of production from that good offense. And if you look at a lot of the wins, the majority of the wins that TCU had, it took comebacks, it took bounces of the ball, it took a runoff field goal, not a walk-off field goal, but a runoff field goal against Baylor. They almost didn't get that field goal off. And 2 pick sixes against Michigan. I don't think TCU gets those bounces. I think they have a bad defense, and I think their offense takes a tremendous step back. This will be a rebuilding year for TCU, and you could be looking at barely missing a bowl. Yeah, going from national championship contender to barely missing a bowl. It does happen. Look at West Virginia from 1993 to 1994. Had an undefeated regular season in 93, went to the Sugar Bowl. Then in 94, you guessed it, we missed a bowl. And had we won that Sugar Bowl, we would have had a share of a national championship. So we were in the same position as TCU, except instead of a shared national championship, they would have had it outright. But of course, they got blasted, just like West Virginia got blasted. We got beat 41-7 against Florida in the Sugar Bowl. So very, very similar teams. And finally, number 14, Oklahoma State. I think they're going to be terrible. I think they take the biggest step back. Well, not in terms of numbers, but just how bad they're going to be. They're going to fall from the 7th spot all the way down to the 14th spot. Oklahoma State had a letdown year last year. Good first half, terrible second half, and they had a crap ton of starters into the transfer portal. Oklahoma State is going to be a bad team in 2023, and Mike Gundy might be on the hot seat. And he's been in Oklahoma State for a very, very long time. But we saw a meltdown last year, and if this happens, what I'm predicting, Mike Gundy will be on the hot seat at Oklahoma State. Might actually end up being on the hot seat mid-season. Might actually get fired at the end of next season. Wow. So y'all let me know in the comments section what you think about my rankings for 2023 for the new Big 12. Where do you think I'm right? Where do you think I'm wrong? What surprised you the most? And do you agree with me that Mike Gundy could be on the hot seat as soon as the middle of the 2023 college football season? That's all I got for this show. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you on my next show.